Welcome to the Rooted Lounge, where we break down the 3 core relationships that shape everything about your life as a mom: your relationship with yourself, your partner, and your kids. We're Monica and Michelle, therapists turned mom coaches, and we know firsthand that motherhood isn't just diapers and to-do lists. It's an identity shift that touches every part of who you are. This ain't your mama's motherhood. Here we mix real mom talk, a little humor, and a lot of truth to help you feel more grounded, connected, and fully alive in your life as a mom. So grab your coffee, hide in the bathroom if you have to, and let's get into today's conversation.
So you know that mom that looks like she has it all together?
Mhm.
Spoiler, she does not. I just want you to think of you scrolling through Instagram or TikTok and you're like, wow, like this mother's got it.
House is spotless. Yeah, the kids are like never a mess. Like
Yep. They have these awesome morning routines where it looks like nothing goes wrong. Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on and on. But today we're going to be talking about the myths of having it all together as a mom, because we hear that quite often. Like, I don't have my shit together. I don't have this together. And it's like, you know what? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
What does having it all together mean?
Yeah.
So I think what's important and where we definitely should start is acknowledging how mom culture and social media has really fueled this perfectionism and comparison that has really affected that idea of having it all together, because we have kind of this like idealization of what motherhood should or shouldn't look like. And it's really affected how we see ourselves as moms and how we are moms with our kids and in our life.
Yeah, I mean, I think social media does have a big part in that. And of course, social media isn't all bad. You know, we have a lot of good resources from it where, some women feel like they find certain communities that they feel really connected in that sense. And without that, they maybe wouldn't have their village and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Some people, just like some of the resources of finding ways to, I don't know, organize their homes or meal planning and, those types of things. So there's crafts to do with kids, there's a number of different things. But then there's the other side of social media,
which is probably the prominent side too, which is so unfortunate because those things are so amazing, but they're not the things that often come out of it, which actually kind of makes me really sad.
Yeah, and I think even when some, social media people, influencers, creators, whatever, that their intention obviously is not to, produce that type of effect.
Of course.
But I think just based off of how our brains are designed is we focus on the bad. We focus on kind of confirming what we're feeling internally, like finding the information that confirms how we're feeling internally. So I don't know, I might be having a grand old day, but then I go on social media and I'm like, holy crap, I am not doing enough. Like, oh, I didn't even think to do a boo bag for Halloween. I've been seeing a lot of those lately.
No, for sure.
Or, I didn't hand stitch, my kid's Halloween costume or something. Like, oh, should I be doing that stuff?
Am I a bad mom for not doing it?
Yeah. So totally. It's just like it can go in this direction of I'm not doing enough because I'm seeing everything that other people are doing. So I must be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But again, we don't know what is going on in other people's lives and if they have time for that, if they maybe enjoy doing that, if that's maybe a business of theirs, a passion of theirs, or whatever it is. So there is so much information that we're getting from social media but there's also a ton of information that we don't get because we're only seeing what's being presented to us.
Yeah.
And that's something that I like to tell our clients is like, you know, Instagram, social media, TikTok, whatever it is, you're getting like the highlight reel, you're getting, you are only getting what they want you to get.
Right. Whether it's these, boo bags or even if it's the opposite and they are showing raw emotion, right? Like we never know, like, cause that can also be a highlight reel, just more in like, a not so great way, right? Like we don't want people to feel that way if they're being raw.
Yeah.
But we also don't know why. We don't know the underneath of any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, one of the biggest things that we want you to get out of this episode is you don't have to do it all to be a good mom. No. Whatever capacity and bandwidth that you have is enough. So I guess we just want to really start by saying that.
Like take a big exhale. Cause I think we have, like, I know I have to remind myself of that quite often. And we're going to get into this in this episode, but really anchoring into our own value of who we want to be as moms and not comparing ourselves to what every other mom is doing.
So aside from the very obvious part of social media being like a really big contributing factor to this, where else does this myth come from?
Oh, totally.
That moms have to like be the perfect mom, be the super mom, be, just like top notch, type of mom. Where it's also interesting too that like the expectations around this, I don't know, maybe because I'm not a dad, but I don't see these expectations on dads, So like, what is it about the mom? I don't know.
Yeah. So cultural expectations is probably the first one that I want to touch on. And this is culture across the board. It can be your upbringing. It could be your, like your nationality. It could be, I don't know why I'm
blanking. No, I think a lot of people, you make a good point, because I think a lot of people, when they think of culture, their head typically goes to like ethnicity and race.
Yes.
Thank you. It's so much more like there is a cultural layer in all the systems that we're in.
Yes.
So that can absolutely be, the country that you live in, and the ethnic culture that goes with that.
Yeah.
But also from like, let's say in the US, it's the state you live in, the town you live in, down to the neighborhood you live in, down to the home that you live in. Your work culture, what else? The culture like within your friend group. It can just go on and on and on. So when we say culture, we're referring to the whole shebang.
Yeah, absolutely. And how it's different from person to person, thing to thing, place to place, right? I think with our society and kind of that mom culture is that we have this hustle and bustle, and we've kind of been taught this is how it needs to be. And so that kind of goes into my second thought. And obviously, if you want to elaborate on the cultural expectations, definitely do so. But it being kind of passed down from our parents, like I have conversations with my mom all the time about just like her version of motherhood and what that's supposed to look like. And, we've gotten into some debates, and I'm like, Mom, like this is what you did, and apparently it worked for you. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to give myself the time. I want to have other identities other than just being a mom, because I never really saw my mom take care of herself because it was all about me, And so that's just kind of like a high level thought, but that pressure that is passed down through generations based on the cultural expectations. I mean, I think our generation is just living so differently. I mean, as any generation does, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of across the board, but the cultural expectations and the generations and being taught these things is a huge piece of it.
Oh, for sure. Like, of course, every like newer generation will say that their generation is harder than the previous one. But I mean, there's a lot coming out around how for millennials, like our generation, I don't know specifically if they give like a time frame, but it is one of the most challenging generations to be a parent in. And I think one of it is from growing up, like whether you were born in the 80s or 90s, and then growing up in the 90s or, the early 2000s, where we went from like no digital age into the digital age. And a lot of the, kind of old school ways of growing up where, you're playing outside until it's dark out. And then that's when to come in for dinner and that sort of thing. We didn't have devices and tablets and phones and all that stuff. It's like that just added like such a different layer of things to our generation.
Absolutely.
But because of the way that we grew up without those things and then into our, late adolescence, early adulthood, where that technology and stuff came into play, it's like we're still kind of trying to wrap our head around, some of that technology stuff in how it relates to like our kids.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also like how we use technology to kind of make sense of the world, make sense of the stage of life that we're in our motherhood journeys and that sort of thing. There's just so many different layers to it. So many.
This is a thought that came into my mind that I've heard this from a lot of people about just like this idea of kind of giving up everything when you become a mom. And it's a little bit of a tangent, but again, just kind of like these things that have been told of us, that we witnessed, that we watched. And I know for me, that was one of them, not just, from my own family, but for other families as well, that it's like, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to look like. And I think to your point and how like we have had this kind of split of, no technology to technology, it really has to shift the way that we parent. It has to shift the way that we not only mother, but like, I don't know, in some ways like mother ourselves, like the way that we just are like living in motherhood, it has to be different.
And I think too, another thing that just came to mind is that at least more of like we're in the same generation, but
I'm glad that you're about to say this because I was going to say something similarly. So go ahead.
But at least for my experience, and I think a lot of the people that I grew up with and that sort of thing, is that at that time, the normal household dynamic was that there was one working person, typically, the dad, and moms typically were stay-at-home moms. And when a lot of your generation is raised by the mother and the father is the one who is working, then what messages are you receiving and absorbing about motherhood, where now we're in a day and age where most households, it's a two-person income household where both people are working. And like, how does that shift things.
Absolutely.
You know?
And the expectations for sure.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to go into that area, but I wanted to actually like mention about how like you're technically an older millennial. And although I'm not like the younger of the millennials, like we still have 7 years difference. And so you even spent more time not having the technology, right?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, you were like in college, end of high school.
Yeah, I was towards the end of high school when I got a beeper. Does that age me? My first piece of technology was a pager.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, and even just that, I mean, I went through, I didn't get a cell phone until I was in high school, but,
Yeah.
and again, you know, the flip phone or whatever,
Yeah.
but even still, even those, like, I even say extra 5-7 years of you not having it
Oh yeah.
is a total,
Yeah, dial-up
different.
internet, you know,
I remember
all that stuff.
I remember that. I definitely have that. Absolutely. I know we're kind of getting off course, but I think that makes a lot of sense that when we are, obviously we're talking to every generation, you know, that has a child, but we specifically are millennials. So
Mhm.
I think that it's important for us to really kind of look at this myth of having it all together and really like where it comes from.
Yeah, and how it can come from so many different places. It
Mhm.
can be, again, generational, time-wise. It can be cultural. Yeah, it can just come down from a lot of different places. But I think also another kind of big one that plays a significant part here is this like fear of judgment or failure,
Mhm.
right? Where like if we don't have it all together, or if we don't seem to have it all together, then either we think we're failing, or we're more focused on other people are going to perceive that we're failing, and
Absolutely.
then how will that look, or
and then where did that come from? It's because we're not our parents who had to make a phone call or had to go to somebody's house, like, or to, you know, have a conversation with their friends once a week. I mean, we are in constant contact with other people pretty regularly, whether it's people we know or strangers. And I wanted to kind of add that point where with our parents, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I almost feel like there was more of this confidence in motherhood because they just had what they saw that their moms or aunts and their aunts did or whatever. And yeah, maybe they talked to their friends and, you know, they had phone calls talking about the hardships and whatever, and maybe like, oh, I did this and I did that, but it wasn't as constant. I mean, we are connected to that all day, every day. And I really believe that makes a huge difference in our fear of judgment and rejection and failure and all of those things, because we're exposed to it more often. That's the word I was looking for.
I think that makes so much sense. And what just came to mind when you said that was also like, think of it too, where in older generations, like generations of my parents, you know, your parents, where also at those times, people were having multiple children. And so families were a lot bigger too, where you had more aunts and uncles and cousins, and
living in the same house, you know?
And so like your network was primarily your family. And so typically, or not typically, maybe, but I think back then you had shared values and shared interests and everything. So
that's where it was going to come from.
There wasn't so much of like these outsider perspectives that you're being bombarded with.
Yeah, the diversity when it came to that, for sure.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, I'm doing pretty good because I know my sisters, you know, or my brothers, they're doing the same thing with their kids. So like, I guess we're doing it just fine, you know? So that came to mind too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah. It's just such different times, you know, where we have so many different things. And I don't know that I want to say that are working against us, but definitely making it more challenging for sure.
Yeah. I definitely think it's making it more challenging because there's just so many differing thoughts, opinions, feelings, right? So it kind of can feel muddled,
Yeah.
you know.
So let's talk a little bit about how, like, what is the cost of being so focused all the time on, like, I have to be the super mom, I have to be doing it all, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Stress and burnout, girl.
Right?
Stress and burnout, which in our last episode, we talked a lot about survival mode, which again, survival mode turns into burnout, right? So it is that constant state of being in that space.
Yeah. Just going through the motions, living on autopilot,
Yeah.
not being like connected to, again, those 3 core relationships that we talk about in Rooted Motherhood: yourself, your partner, your kids. And then that extends to, you know, your coworkers at work, your friends. I don't know, just like it can just go on and on. You can really just like float through life. And the days just keep passing by. And then one day you wake up and you're like, holy crap, like how did we get here?
Yeah.
You know?
One thing that comes to mind too with those symptoms, I guess, is this is like deep feeling of never being good enough. And I can only imagine how many moms out there who, at the heart of it all, don't think or feel like they're good enough. Honestly, as a whole, like even just as a woman, you know, not even just as a mom, I mean, just in general. And so so some of these, like the cost of having it all together, that myth, like that is kind of a deep rooted, like, I just don't feel like enough. I don't have that confidence. You know, we lose that sense of, we lose our sense of self.
Yeah.
It's just not there anymore.
Yeah. Something that just popped into my head was how we've heard so much from moms about how they have built resentment towards their spouses, towards their, you know, husbands or partners, because from their perspectives, their lives changed drastically, like totally upside down. And then at least their perception is that their husbands' lives changed very little. And having resentment towards their husbands for not, you know, not feeling like their lives were uprooted, and also not being able to, I guess, like validate how they're feeling because their experiences were so different.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one. The guilt and the resentment, for sure.
Yeah.
And kind of to go off of that too, like if there was like a personal, for me, like a personal moment that, you know, kind of having this like needing or wanting to do it all. I mean, I had that moment too, like where I was maybe not full of resentment, but I felt like I like had sacrificed so much, my time, my energy, my profession. I mean, I could go on and on. And so I think it's important to notice that. And again, you know, we worked, you know, me and my partner particularly worked really hard to kind of get to that place. And sometimes it pops up now, but it's a lot more freeing when I can say, like, no, you know what I mean? Like we both sacrificed a lot, you know, for what we went through. So I don't know. It's kind of a lot of processing in that moment, but
yeah. So I think what we would really love is to redefine what having it all together means, you know, and that the together part of it isn't that you have to do it all, you never ask for help, you just go until you drop, you know, but more so of like being like the togetherness is about feeling really, again, you'll hear a lot of this same language from us about like anchoring yourself in yourself, being really connected to yourself, being really rooted in, um, your partnership and really trying to just be really tuned in, um, and then how that has the positive effect on your kids and that sort of thing. So it's
Mhm.
really just about, um, just being more intentional. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and knowing who you want to be as a mom, and we may not
Yeah.
reflect on that all that much, where maybe we think we know, and then we kind of get into motherhood and you're like, oh, this is actually not how I
Mm,
want to live my motherhood. And that takes a lot of deeper reflection. Like, you might have to
mm-hmm.
sit down with yourself, write it down. But I really kind of like that prompt of like, who do you want to be? Like,
Yeah.
you, based on your values, your family's values, the person that you want to show up to be, the person that you want your kids to show up to be. Like, if I'm
Mm,
showing them one thing, like, they're more likely to model that behavior. So I
mm-hmm.
really think it's kind of turning inward and really reflecting on who that person is. And you
Mm.
may not know right now, and that's okay, but I
And
think what
it'll keep
it's
changing
changing.
over
Yeah,
time.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. But as long, again, as you're grounded, intentional in that, then
Mm-hmm.
everybody else's experience isn't really going to matter. And don't get me wrong, you might find this awesome tip and you're like, yeah, like, let me put that in my back pocket, right? Like, we all still do that. But but as long as you're not going out there and comparing yourself and feeling the sense of failure over and over and over again, like, we can mold and absorb and change throughout our motherhood, but
Mm-hmm.
just feeling more grounded in who you want to be as a mom.
Yeah, I think that authenticity is absolutely huge, and that may be a journey. You might not just
Mm,
like know right now who you want to be or the type of mother that you want to be. And again, as I mentioned, like that can also shift over time
yeah,
because priorities shift and different things
yeah,
kind
life
of
circumstances.
come into focus, at different times, and that's all well and fine. But so being authentic doesn't mean that you just have to accept who you are right now because
Mm,
that's who you are right now.
mm-hmm.
It's about knowing when you can be flexible and when you do want to open yourself up to new things and when you want to try new things, and also knowing and embracing the parts of you that are a little bit more solid.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, just like being very compassionate with yourself, like being very, giving yourself a lot of grace, being gentle with yourself, and knowing that, like, motherhood specifically, but life as a whole is it's a ride, like
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have these ups and downs, and sometimes it's going to be, bumpy roads, and sometimes it's going to be nice and smooth, and that's it. Like that's what
Yeah.
life is, and we have to learn how to embrace those bumps, and when we need to maybe pull back a little bit, when we need to lean in a little bit more. So but
Yeah.
the point is, the only way that you can do that is if you're aware of yourself
Mhm.
and you're putting what matters most to you at the forefront.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. A couple other things that I want to add before we close out for the day is normalizing asking for help and saying no, and then just letting go of that idea of being perfect. Like, our lives are going to be imperfect, and honestly, like, embrace those things, like,
mm-hmm.
it is kind of nice when things are imperfect. It may not feel that way, but and then the last thing I wanted to mention was how you model that imperfection for your kids actually teaches resilience
Oh
and
yeah,
self-acceptance,
yeah,
which
big time.
we know that our kids are sponges. They absorb everything, right? And so, kind of like our parents, right? Like, we saw and model and really and truly are, started to model what they're doing, and we have the awareness now to say, hey, maybe that's not what we want to do, right? And our
Mm-hmm.
kids are going to be the same way. Like, they they don't need they don't need perfection. They need the imperfect.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. So I think a final kind of reflection we would love to leave you with is to really take some time and think about where am I performing motherhood? And more specifically, like what areas might I be performing in? So is it with your friends? Is it with, your kids' school related things? Is it with maybe even your own family sometimes? Like, where are you? Yeah, where is it kind of like an act? And where is it, how are you actually like living motherhood?
Yeah.
Because those are two very, very different things. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the episode today. We love being here with you. A few things. Always go over to Instagram and follow us at beyond.being.mamas. We also want to share with you that we have an amazing mom community. It's called Connected AF. For real connections with other moms who are tired of this perfectionism myth as well, and have also shared with us that, they've tried to have it all together, and what does that actually look like. So it's a great community. We're going to link it in the description below. So we would love for you all to join us, and thanks again. We'll see you next time.
See ya.